I follow up on everything. I see my team's performance trends across all my organizations, and I have the time to do the work that actually matters. The things that I enjoy doing, like coaching people, making hard calls, and building cultures that last. These tools, it didn't make me a better leader. It gave me the time to lead. All right, let me tell you about last Tuesday. I had a coaching call at 8 a.m., a back-to-back team meeting until about noon, a strategy session right after that in one of my organizations, and that was in the afternoon time frame. And then that evening, I had to prep content for the podcast the next day. 5 years ago, that day would have wrecked me. I would have been up till probably midnight, catching up on all the follow-ups, prepping for the next morning. But last Tuesday, I was done by 4:30. 4:30. Not because I skipped anything, not because I cut corners, but because 5 AI tools did the heavy lifting. The lifting on the stuff that it didn't need me. So I could show up fully for the stuff that did. And here's what's wild, everybody. Every single tool I'm going to show you today either has a free version or it's completely free. You don't need a budget. That's right. You don't need any money. You don't need a fancy IT department. You just need 20 minutes. The next 20 minutes, give it to me and have a willingness to try something different. Because by the end of this episode, you're going to have my exact tool stack, the same 5 tools I use every week to lead 4 organizations without burning out. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I'm John Espinosa. Quick context if you are new here to the podcast. I've spent the last 20 years building teams and developing leaders like yourselves from the ground up in the trenches, not from a textbook. Right now, I actively lead 4 organizations. I don't advise, not consult from the sidelines. I lead them day to day. People that are counting on me, decisions to make, cultures to protect. So I tell you that not to impress you, but to let you know when I share what works, it's because I'm living it. Every single framework on this podcast, every tool, every strategy that I bring up, it gets tested. Real leadership across real teams in real time. In this episode, this is the one that I've been waiting for because everybody continues asking me, John, how do you manage 4 organizations and still have time to coach, create content, and be present for your teams and your family? The honest answer, I couldn't. I couldn't if I were doing things the way that I did them 5 years ago. It would fall apart. So what's changed? The system. The system is built on 5 AI tools that I use every single week. Now, let me be clear. This isn't going to be a tech review. I'm not going to geek out and talk about all the features and the specs. Well, maybe just a little bit. But this is a leadership podcast. So again, I'm going to show you how I use each tool to solve a real leadership problem. Because the tool, it only matters if it helps you lead better, right? So here's what we're going to cover today. 3 things. First, we're going to talk about why most leaders use AI wrong. It's that mindset shift. It's the mindset shift, let me say that right, that makes AI actually useful. Then we're going to talk about the 5-tool leadership stack. Now, this is the exact tools that I use and how I use them and the leadership problem that it solves. And then third, we're going to give you a 20-minute setup guide. This is how to get your first tool running today. Not next quarter, because again, I want to give you practical things to get you where you need to go. So let's dig into it. Quickly, why most leaders use AI wrong. There's 2 mistakes that I've noticed. In my experience, either leaders ignore it completely. They hear maybe AI and they think it's for the IT department, or it's for tech companies, or it's for the next generation. And they tell themselves that they'll figure it out later. Well, later is running out. And then the second mistake that leaders make is they try to use everything, right? They download 10 different apps. They watch a dozen tutorials on YouTube and they quickly get overwhelmed. And guess what? Everything else that we get overwhelmed with, including AI, what happens within a week? What happens within that 2-week time frame? We just quit. We quit. And then we say, this AI doesn't work for me. So both mistakes, though, both of these come from the same place. And that place is not having a clear answer to the question, what problem am I trying to solve? So I want us to get in the right mindset first. Don't start with what can AI do? Start with where am I wasting time? If you did the AI leadership audit that we talked about in episode 325, you already have your answer. If you didn't, pause this episode and go do it. Seriously, it only takes around 15 minutes and it will change everything. So leaders getting real results with AI, they don't have to be the most tech savvy person, right? They're the most intentional. They pick one problem, they find one tool, and they actually use it consistently. That's a no-brainer. So here, start with one principle. You don't need 5 tools today. You just need one tool this week. Master it, see the results, and then start to stack the tools. Add the next one. I built my current stack over, I would say, probably 6 to 9 months. One tool at a time, each one solving a specific problem that I was tired of dealing with. So that's how sustainable change works. It's not a massive overhaul. That's not what I'm asking you or advocating here on this episode. It's going to be a series of small and deliberate upgrades. Because I'm going to be honest with you, when I started experimenting with AI tools, I made mistake number 2. I signed up for everything. I remember it started hitting our Apple account, and my wife was like, what's going on here, right? I had tabs open on my PCs that I didn't even remember opening. I was spending more time learning the tools than actually leading. And so after about 2 weeks of that, I asked myself one question. What's the one task that is eating up most of my time every single week that I don't need to be there for? All right, for me, the answer was meeting prep. For you, it might be putting reports together or aggregating data, right? Collecting data. So I was spending hours every week reviewing the notes, building agendas, pulling context from old conversations. Important work, but it didn't require my judgment. It did require my time, but there's a difference here. So I started with one tool to handle meeting prep. That's it, one tool, one problem. And when I saw that it saved me, I want to say 3 to 4 hours a week. That's a lot of time, especially when you got 4 organizations and every single one of those hours I have scheduled out and it's planned to things. So that's when I knew, when I realized, when I saved that 3 to 4 hours a week, I knew that this was much more than just a superficial level. I needed to go deeper, but it didn't start going deeper. It started with just one. So some research here. When we talk about AI tool usage, most managers found that effective leaders really just use, or the studies, effective leaders just use 2 to 3 AI tools consistently, not a dozen of them. And the key differentiator wasn't the number of tools, okay, but intentionality. It was their intentionality behind how they use the tools. And this is something that leaders who match specific tools to specific workflow pain points report significantly higher satisfaction. So that's what we got to ask ourselves. What problem? Where are my problem stacks, right? Not tool stacks, problem stacks, and then we're going to match a tool to that problem. So before we get into the tools, I want you to think about your biggest weekly time drain. It's the task that's going to eat hours and doesn't require your unique leadership skills. Got it? Okay, good. So hold that in your mind because one of these 5 tools, I promise, is going to solve it. So let's get into the stack here. 5 tools, 5 leadership problem solved. Here we go. Just a quick pause in our episode. This might be exactly what you need to hear. If you're currently leading a team or you want to lead a team and you're spending your days putting out fires, you're not failing, you're just stuck. Because when everything feels urgent, nothing actually improves. And over time, that starts to chip away at our confidence as a leader. I've led teams under pressure for years, and firefighting isn't about effort, it's about those missing leadership systems. When expectations are clear and ownership is real, our teams, they stop reacting and they start solving problems without us. So if you're ready to lead instead of react, click on the link below, book a call, check out our consulting programs. All right, back to the episode. Right now, I want you to focus on these 5 tools. Again, I'm going to give them all to you, but think of them individually. I use all of these tools across my organization, but I didn't get there overnight. So the first tool I want to talk about is an AI thought partner. And the specific tool here is Claude or ChatGPT. Those are the most, for me, they were like entry level. You can even use Copilot, maybe, or Gemini, right? You can include those in here. But for the most part, the problem I was trying to solve was decision-making, and decision-making in isolation. So all of us have moments where we need to think something through, but we might not have a trusted advisor, right, until the next morning. And I want to think about it right now. It's midnight. I'm up. I want to think about it. What do? I open up Claude. I open up ChatGPT. I use them as that thought partner. Now, I don't use them to make the decision for me, but I use them to pressure test my thinking. And this is how I do it. Before I have a difficult conversation, I'll describe the situation. So what am I not seeing, right? I'll ask it. What is the other person likely to feel when I tell them this? Or where could I go wrong? Where are my pitfalls? Before a decision, I could ask it. I'll lay out all the options and I talk to it. I use the voice feature. I don't type all this stuff in. I use the voice feature and I'll ask it to argue against my preferred choice. Again, this looks for those blind spots. And then another example, maybe you've had a tough meeting, right? I use this to debrief. So here's what happened. I give it as much context as I possibly can. And then I'll ask it what, or if anything, I could have done differently, or something I could have handled differently. What I want you to take away, though, what AI is not doing in here, it's not replacing human advisors. It's not replacing coaches like myself, right? Or input from your team. It's a sparring partner. Think of it as that sparring thought partner in moments where we got to process alone. We may not have somebody to, phone a friend or pick up. So use it to think better, not to think for you. Make sense? And again, time saved for me about 2 to 3 hours per week. Again, and it's going to be dependent. Some of these times, depending on where you're at in the organization and what you're actually doing, some of these times may vary. But 2 to 3 hours for me. Tool number 2. This is an AI meeting assistant. So in my story up front, remember, I mentioned this was really the first tool that I dipped my toe into. So there's things like Otter.ai, Fireflies, something similar, right? I mean, you could even use Zoom. Now, Zoom pops up now on my meetings and asks me to take notes. But again, this is where I dipped my toe into the world of AI. And honestly, the one big difference, the thing that made the most impact was these tools. So AI meeting assistant, it'll join your meeting, whether it's a virtual meeting or it's an in-person meeting with your phone. You can have your phone and just let everybody know. I let everybody know that I was using the phone, and it will transcribe everything. And then the power of this is it generated summary with actions. So for this piece, I would have somebody or dedicate somebody to take meeting notes. Well, that person was a part of the team and we would rotate it and I would include myself in that loop. But if you're taking notes and you're trying to be involved in the conversation, that doesn't go very well. So I use this tool as every meeting whether it was an in-person and virtual, it automatically transcribed everything, and then it would provide me a summary. So I would review that list. It would create action items. It would send them to the team. It would also send out the meeting minutes for any kind of clarification or for them to maybe, edit if I captured or it captured anything wrong. And it wasn't hours. It wasn't the next day. It was instantaneously. So before the next meeting, guess what I would do? I'd pull up the summary and I would walk in to that meeting with the full context. Now, you may be asking yourself, John, why does this matter? Why does this matter for leadership? Nothing kills team trust faster than a leader who forgets what they committed to. And this tool made sure that nothing fell through the cracks for me. It was a game changer for me, right? My team started noticing that the follow-through improved on my part dramatically. And it's not that they called me out, but sometimes we get into one-on-one conversations and they were like, hey, John, did you see that email on whatever project that I needed movement on, or I needed you to reach out to somebody? And I'm like, oh, forgot that. My fault. Again, I never want to be the single point of failure in any one of the organizations that I lead. So this just ensured that things were getting done. Tool number 3, project and task orchestration. So tools that I've used, Notion AI, ClickUp.ai, or Asana. Now, there's other tools out there, but these are the ones that I've used personally. So when you are leading multiple teams like myself, or maybe you're leading a very busy team, right? The hardest thing to do is keeping that clear picture of what's happening without being a micromanager. So AI-powered project tools will generate status updates for us. They'll even flag at-risk tasks, right, that we have going on with our multiple projects. They'll suggest maybe some priority shifts without us having to chase people down. So workload distribution. So every Monday, this is how I use these tools. I get an AI-generated summary of where every single project stands across all 4 organizations. I don't have to ask anybody for an update. The system simply tells me what's on track, what's behind, and what needs my attention, right? So I only step in when human judgment is needed, not the information. And why this matters is the difference between managing and leading. And if you don't know it, managing is chasing updates. Leading is knowing where to focus your energy. So AI handles the chasing. So you can do the second. Pretty cool, huh? All right. Tool number 5. We're going here. Content repurposing. Now, when I started my podcast, it was a huge, all I did for the first 30 days, I recorded a single piece of content every single day. That's how I got going. Remember, shrink to start. I didn't want to overthink this thing. So I got online. I used a couple different tools, but what I finally settled on, especially for this podcast, was Descript. So I use Descript. We also use Opus Clip. So those are the 2 tools that I'm going to talk about. And the leadership problem that it solved for me was building my personal brand. I didn't want to add more hours in the week, but I wanted to build a personal brand because I understood that that was powerful. And in the previous episode, we talked about how your personal brand is really your professional insurance policy. So most leaders will say, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to create content. And after we've gotten through that concern, right, I take them to Descript or I take them to Opus Clip because AI content tools can take one piece of content, simply putting your phone on a pedestal, talking into it, whatever that looks like, a podcast episode that we're recording, a keynote presentation. If you're a speaker, these tools are powerful. I talked to one of my colleagues who she was running around talking on stages. They were filming her, but she didn't know what to do with the content. Bingo. This is it, right? Training. That's another thing. If you are doing educational type content or a team training, this is an excellent tool, right? It repurposes the clips. It'll post that they're nice bite-sized chunk. You can even tell it what platform you're posting to, and it'll even go out there and and post for you. So how I use it, every single podcast episode gets fed into one of these tools, AI repurposing tool. It will identify the top moments. It generates all the short form clips for our social media accounts, and it'll even suggest captions. I mean, I'm telling you, if you don't know about these tools, please go out there after this episode. You can pause me, go out, take a look, because you're not going to want to miss tool 5. But what used to take, maybe 3 to 4 team members, hours, guess what? Now it takes 20 minutes. Now it takes me just reviewing a piece of content, okaying it in another AI tool, in our project tracking tool, and it goes out for publishment. Why that matters? Well, guess what? In 2026, your digital presence is going to be your credibility. When someone looks you up, because they will, that next job promotion, what are they doing? There are teams that are out there researching LinkedIn or looking for your name because they're going to Google it. They're going to maybe even use an AI search tool of their choice. And your content is going to be proof of your expertise. So AI makes it possible for us to show up consistently without being buried in social media, right? And AI helps us repurpose. It doesn't replace our voice. It doesn't replace our stories, but it's there. It's still you, and it breaks things down into bite-sized chunks. So let's talk about tool 5. And these are dashboards. So it's a performance dashboard. Now, custom AI or, link to any of your existing data. The problem that this solves is making performance conversations data informed instead of just our biases or opinion driven, right? So this one is a little bit more advanced, but it's transformational for the way that I lead because I can use AI to pull in data from my existing tools, whether it's project management, CRM, attendance, engagement surveys. I connect it to everything and then it pulls in that information. So every Friday, what I do is I generate a performance summary for every single one of my teams. And it will show me trends, not just snapshots, right, of who's improving, who's declining, what patterns are emerging. I use these summaries as the foundation for my one-on-one conversations, not the conversation itself, but data opens that door for the human conversation to walk through. And the reason why this matters for us as leaders is, remember, we talked about that AI presents data without bias, no recency effect, no favoritism, right? Just what happened. And that's what makes your feedback conversations more credible and more fair. I do this for presentations at the executive board all the way down for keynotes that I have. So the caution here, though, is data without the dialogue really is just surveillance. So always be sure to pair the dashboard with real conversation. All right, pretty cool, huh? People ask me all the time how I lead 4 organizations without burnout. And the honest answer is I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it without the stack that I just shared. And it's not because these tools make me superhero or superhuman, but because they handle those parts of leadership that don't require me to be in the room. And before I developed this system, and I'm still honing this system, right? I was the bottleneck in every single one of my organizations. Updates had to flow through me. Follow-ups depended on my memory, which is going. In performance conversations, they were based on whatever I could remember from the last few weeks, that recency effect. Now, what happens? I walk into every single one of my meetings informed. I follow up on everything. I see my team's performance trends across all my organizations, and I have the time to do the work that actually matters. The things that I enjoy doing, like coaching people, making hard calls, and building cultures that last. These tools, it didn't make me a better leader. It gave me the time to lead. And there's a huge difference between knowing what good leadership looks like and actually having that bandwidth to do it. One of the things, again, IBM 2026 AI Trends report that they describe the emerging concept of AI composers, right? Leaders who are going to orchestrate AI tools across their workflow the way a music producer layers in instruments. And the most effective leaders, they're not using AI content just for one task, they're building integrated systems where multiple tools work together, freeing them up to focus on strategy. So just like we talked about earlier, they're taking one tool and then they're building upon that. So you don't need all five of those tools that I mentioned, or I mentioned more than five, but all five of those tips and the problems solved at one time. I want you to just pick one. Pick a problem and then pick a tool to solve that biggest pain point. That is where you're going to start seeing the benefit. If you pick 10 things, you don't know which one is working, and it's going to take you a longer learning curve to get there. But now what I want you to do, or what I'm going to show you actually, is exactly how I got started so you will know what to do. And it's going to be quick. We're going to go through each one of these. I promise you're going to take, for you, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes on it, but it's going to take you 20 minutes or less. So here's the setup that I want you to do. I'm going to challenge you here. Challenge you to get it done before the week is out. So step one, pick a tool. Pretty easy enough. Look at the 5 tools that we suggested. Pick the one that matches your biggest time drain. If you're not sure, you're still scratching your head after you're listening up to this point, start with the AI thinking partner. That was Claude or ChatGPT, right? It's free. There's zero setup. You don't even have to put anything, because again, I can geek out on some of the setup and information that you can feed it and how to connect it to things. But again, start there as a thought leader. And guess what? I just have a conversation. Turn on the voice button. Don't be sitting there typing, and just have a conversation with it. If you know your pain point, you're going to match it. You're going to take that biggest pain point, and then you're going to match it with a tool that we talked about earlier. So that's step one. Pick the tool. Pick step 2. Now you're going to set it up. So we're just going to take the AI thinking partner. You're going to go to Claude.ai or ChatGPT. You're going to create a free account, right? If you don't have one, and then you're going to type in a real leadership challenge that you're currently facing. Then see what comes back. And then you're going to refine from there. For the meeting assistant, if that's your biggest pain point, you're going to go sign up for Otter or Fireflies, and both have free tiers. I want you to connect it to your calendar and then let it join your next meeting automatically. For project orchestration, maybe you're already using ClickUp or Notion, right? Turn on their AI features. So most are built in. A lot of these tools, they have AI features built into them if they weren't prior to. And if you're not using any of these, I would start with Notion. It's the easiest free starting point. For context repurposing, upload one video or audio file to Opus Clip, right? I use Descript, but Opus Clip probably is a little more intuitive, user-friendly, and then you let it generate auto clips. Let it generate those clips, and then all you have to do is review and post them. You can post them right from the app. For performance dashboards, just start simple. I want you to ask your AI thinking partner, okay? You can use the thinking partner on what your performance summary looks like. Talk to them. Let them know, hey, these are the things that are important to me. Here's our key performance indicators. Here's the things that I have seen, best practices within the organization. Here's where I want you to alert me if the trend is trending down, right? And you use that and connect it to all the data that you have. Pretty easy. So step 1, you're going to pick a tool. Step 2, you're going to set it up. Step 3, I want you to use it. You're going to get into it. You're going to use it for 1 week. And then you're going to measure how much time it gives you back. You're going to measure its productivity or efficiency, right? And these are learning tools. So the more you use them, the more they learn your tendencies. But for this exercise, block 15 minutes on your calendar. You can do it on Monday. You can do it on Friday, wherever you have that dead space, right? And then ask yourself 3 questions. How much time did using my tool save me, whatever tool that you chose? What did I do with the time saved? So that tool saved you X number of hours. What did you do with that time? And then did it help you lead better or just work faster? That's okay too, right? Because the third question, this one matters the most. Faster isn't our goal here. Better leadership is the goal. So the time savings, that's just going to give you, that's going to be the vehicle that is going to give you the opportunity to dive deeper into leadership. So let me go over that again and stack it slowly. And you can do this over a month, right? So week 1, pick one tool, set it up, and then measure. We just talked about that. Week 2, if week 1 worked, what I want you to do is layer on another tool, okay? Add that second tool. If not, adjust or try a different one. In week 3, 2 tools running. So you're going to have 2 tools now, and you're going to start noticing how they're working together. Week 4, now I want you to stack on another tool. Only if you're ready, though. If you're not ready for this step, then just deepen your understanding of the first tool, the ones that you continue to have doing. And then as you move through these weeks, you're just going to continue building. You're going to continue looking at where you're at. You're going to continue changing what needs to be changed. And that's how this system is going to work. That's how this stack works. That's how over the past 6 to 9 months, I got to where I'm going and I'm able to share it with you. It didn't happen overnight. So don't beat yourself up if you're not getting what even the first tool, if you're like, man, John, I don't know about this thought partner tool. It's just not giving me what I need to get. Stick in there. And again, I mentioned all these tools are free, but as you pay for a subscription, it unlocks more customability. It unlocks more plugins that you can, connect different things to it. So it's only going to get better. And a lot of them, they don't have a yearly subscription. Pay your monthly subscription. If you don't like it, then just cancel. I mean, no loss, right? I've done that to a couple tools because I've gotten in there. I've watched podcasts on AI tools and I get in and I'm like, yeah, I don't know about this one. It's just not really helping me. And now I've tried it and I can use that knowledge for future-proofing other tools. So let's tie in our lead framework here, right? The listen piece. You're going to listen to your workflows, right? Where are you having the biggest friction? Where is your biggest time suck? And then that's where you're going to suggest AI or bring in an AI tool to help you with that. Envision, what would your work week look like with 10 plus reclaimed hours? All right. What conversations could you have that you're not having? What problems could you solve that you're too busy to solve right now? What people on your team would you invest in? That's what I want you to think about. The alignment piece here is you are going to align your tool adoption with your leadership priorities because every tool should serve a leadership outcome, right? This is a leadership podcast. Now you can get techie. You can probably Google each one of these tools or put it in AI, YouTube, go out, and it'll tell you exactly how to use it. And then we're going to drive home the change. We're going to drive the change. I want you all to set it up today. Just go out, open up the browser even, and just look around, right? Not next Monday. Do it today. I want to share a quick story before we wrap up. I had a leader tell me recently that she tried an AI meeting assistant for 1 week. And it changed her life. These are her words, not mine, right? She said for years, she's been the one frantically scribbling notes during the meeting. And she was spending time afterwards trying to piece it all together. I mean, you guys, my chicken scratch, it's terrible, right? So what happened was half the time she would forget. She'd forget something important or the follow-up. After 1 week with the meeting assistant, she walked out of every single meeting with a clean summary of action items. She didn't have to spend time after the meeting. The team was commenting on how more organized everything felt. She didn't do anything different with the meetings. All she changed was adding the tool. She was able to be more present. And again, because she wasn't worried about having to capture everything and write everything down. So one tool, 1 week, it changed your way, changed really the entire team, okay? So YouTube's 2026 trends data and really broader creator economy research shows that leaders who build that visible personal brand through consistent content, they're increasingly seen. Trust me, that's our vision. That's what we execute every single day. They come out more trustworthy and more authoritative than those who rely solely on their title. AI content repurposing tools have made it more possible for people like myself that are time-strapped, that are running multiple organizations to create content. And it's been fun. It's been an incredible journey up to this point. I'm 2 years in, and it's gone by in a blink of an eye, and I am here to stay. So I appreciate every single one of you listening up to this point. One of the things, as always, application. So here's the deal. You have 2 choices right now. You can close this episode out and say, yeah, that was interesting. I like listening to John. Or you can go back and figure out what's one tool. Pick one tool from the list. Spend 10 minutes setting it up today. That's all, 10 minutes. And see what happens when you lead with a little bit more space in your week. The choice is yours. Stay busy or become a better leader. So let's bring this home. As we close out, let's recap. The first thing we talked about, most leaders, most of us are using AI wrong. I was, right? I was ignoring it. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to jump in with 2 feet. And then I tried to adopt everything at once. The right approach for me, I found that sweet spot. Keep it simple. Identify your biggest time drain and then match it with one tool. And then just build from there. Start stacking on additional tools. Then we talked about how I shared the 5 tool stack that I use. AI Thinking Partner for better decisions, my meeting assistant for bulletproof follow through, that project orchestration for visibility without me having to go in and micromanage, the repurposing, the content repurposing for building my brand, continuing to put my face out there, right? And then the performance dashboards, this is going to drive the feedback conversations. This is going to allow you to go into the conversations with the information you need. And then we followed up with that 20-minute setup guide. So pick one tool, set it up for a week, and then measure the results. Measure. Tools don't make us leaders, right? You're already a leader. But the right tools remove the friction that keeps us from leading at our best. Because every hour that we spend compiling that data or chasing follow-ups, formatting reports is an hour that we're not spending building trust, developing our people, and most of all, building the culture that we want to last, right? That stands the test of time and people want to come work for our organizations. So if this episode was valuable to you, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. 1, pick the tool. Right now, before you close this episode out, decide which one that you are going to start using. Say it out loud if you have to commit, right, to it. 2, share this episode. Share it with another leader. Please think of someone who's maybe overwhelmed right now, overworked, or they're the skeptical ones. They're going to bury their head in the sand and they're just not going to use it. This episode might shift their thinking, their mindset about how to use AI. And then 3, do me a favor and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Hit that subscribe button. It's no cost to you. It would be a huge favor to me, and I promise to continue to show up for you and deliver content just like this. Thank you very much. Drop a comment below. Did this resonate? Is there a tool that you're going to start or that I didn't mention out of those 5? Let me know. Until next time, keep leading. I believe in you. Go be great. Talk to you on the next episode. Bye-bye.